COVID-19 Supreme Committee stresses on the requirement of getting vaccinated for entry to the Sultanate for all arrivals from the world countries and also to enter government units and private sector establishments from tomorrow. And the Minister of Health reports 1 death, 61 new COVID-19 cases and 183 recoveries in the Sultanate. Now live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television, here we present to you the details of this news bulletin. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of condolences to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, on the death of Her Highnesses Princess Jawahir bint Abdul Aziz bin Abdullah bin Jawlwi Al Saud. His Majesty the Sultan sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency Dr. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev of Uzbekistan on his country's independence anniversary. His Majesty also sends a similar cabal to Her Excellency President Zuzana Kaputova of Slovakia on her country's National Day. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee issued a statement today on the requirement for getting vaccinated in order to enter the Sultanate for all the arrivals from the world countries in accordance with the active regulations. The committee will follow up the epidemiological situation updates in each country and it will take necessary decisions according to the developments. The decision of the COVID-19 Supreme Committee to make vaccination a requirement for entering the government units and private sector establishments. More details in the following report. The decision of the COVID-19 Supreme Committee to make vaccination a requirement for entering the government units and private sector's establishment, including educational institutions, as well as commercial complexes, restaurants, as well as attending cultural, sports and other activities. During the 26th conference of the committee, it was announced that 100% of the employees will return to work in public sector if they took the vaccine. It called on the necessity to adhere to the precautionary measures approved by the bodies concerned, namely wearing face masks and keeping social distance. All passengers arriving to the Sultanate who present a pre-travel negative results of COVID-19 PCR tests are exempted from quarantine as long as they have PCR tests conducted within 96 hours prior to the scheduled time of arrival in Oman for international flights of more than 8 hours duration. Passengers arriving in the Sultanate without holding a negative COVID-19 PCR test are subjected to PCR test upon arrival. Mandatory quarantine with electronic tracking bracelet until a negative PCR test result is received. In case of a positive PCR test result, the passenger shall be required to undergo mandatory health isolation for 10 days, starting from the test date, excluding the passengers that recovered from the COVID-19 but tested positive on arrival from health isolation, provided that they submit a proof that they have completed their prescribed isolation period in the country where they were infected before traveling to the Sultanate. The arrivals in the Sultanate are required to present a vaccine certificate stating that they have received 2 doses of a vaccine approved in Oman or 1 dose by the approved health authorities of Oman. His Excellency General Sultan bin Mohammed Al Nu'mani, Minister of the Royal Office, received General Enzo Vaccarelli, Chief of Italian Defense General Staff, and his accompanying delegation. During the meeting, they reviewed the progress of the good relation between the two friendly countries, in addition to a number of matters of common concern. His Excellency the General stressed on the depth of the relations with the friendly Republic of Italy and the development they witnessed in many fields. For his part, the chief of the Italian Defense General Staff extended his thanks and appreciation to the Sultanate and its role at the regional and international levels. Vice Admiral Abdullah bin Khamis al-Raisi, Chief of Staff of the Sultan Armed Forces, received General Enzo Vecchiarelli, Chief of Italian Defense General Staff. During the meeting, point of views were exchanged on a number of military matters of common interest. The meeting was attended by a number of senior officers of the Sultan Armed Forces, the Italian ambassador to the Sultanate, and the military attaché at the Italian embassy in Muscat. General Enzo Vecchiarelli, Chief of Italian Defense General Staff, accompanied with Vice Admiral Abdullah Khamis al-Raisi, Chief of Staff of the Sultan's Armed Forces, visited the National Defense College. The Italian guest was briefed on the college and its equipment. He, as well, got acquainted with the facilities and the divisions of the college and its halls, which were designed according to the latest specification and equipped with the best education curriculum. General Enzo Vecchiarelli, Chief of Italian Defense General Staff, and his accompanying delegation visited the Maritime Security Center today. During the visit, the Italian official was accompanied by Vice Admiral Abdullah Khamis al-Raisi, Chief of Staff of the Sultan Armed Forces. The Chief of Italian Defense General Staff toured the center's facilities as he views its latest equipment and technologies. He was also briefed on the tactical roles and tasks carried out by the center within its national duties as it coordinates with relevant authorities in search and rescue missions and the safety of the maritime environment. His Excellency Salim bin Mohammed Al Mahrouqi, Minister of Heritage and Tourism, reviewed during his meeting with His Excellency Engineer Khalid bin Abdul Aziz Al Faleh, Minister of Saudi Investment, areas of investments in the tourism sector, revitalization and programming of intra-tourism between the Sultanate and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and providing facilities in this aspect. The two sides discussed the Memorandum of Understanding between the Ministry of Heritage and Tourism and the Ministry of Tourism in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which covers areas of cooperation between the two countries and exchange of expertise and experiences, promotion, exhibitions and tourism activities, as well as the development of human resources. The Ministry of Health reported 1 death, 61 new COVID-19 cases and 183 recoveries. The ministry also reported that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 302,300, while the total number of deaths was 4,064. The total recovered cases reached 291,904. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients reached 112, of which 54 are in intensive care units around healthcare institutions in the country. The Ministry of Labour, the Oman Broadband Company and Oman Fiber Optic Company signed a cooperation agreement that aims to provide training associated with direct employment of freelance work for 70 technicians from job seekers in the field of fiber optic cables interconnection in the projects and operating areas of the two companies. Still to come in our news bulletin. Panda twins, Pete and Paul turn 2 at Berlin Zoo. Once again, welcome to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Taliban were in full control of Kabul's international airport today after the last U.S. plane left its runway, marking the end of America's longest war. Vehicles carrying the Taliban drove along the Hamid Karzai International Airport sole runway on the northern military side of the airfield. Hikmatullah Wasiq, a top Taliban official, said Afghanistan is finally free. He said their forces are controlling the military and civilian parts of the airport. Normal activity of the airport will be started both in the civilian unit as well as the military unit very soon. Getting the airport running again is just one of the sizable challenges the Taliban face in governing a nation of 38 million people that for 2 decades had survived on billions of dollars in foreign aid. European Union Justice and Home Affairs ministers were meeting today to discuss the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan and how Europe will deal with the flow of refugees and migrants it is expected to produce. The meeting comes the day after the last U.S. forces flew out of Kabul's international airport, ending America's longest war. The 27-nation bloc is looking for ways to prevent a repeat of 2015 refugee crisis fueled by Syria's civil war. The arrival in Europe of well over 1 million migrants that year led to infighting among European Union member nations over how best to manage the influx. A new wave of migrants from Afghanistan is likely to exacerbate tensions. The European Union is likely to provide funding to house refugees in countries bordering Afghanistan to prevent them heading for Europe. A pair of twin pandas celebrated their second birthday today at Berlin Zoo by eating a unique cake in their enclosure in the German capital Berlin. Peter and Paul enjoyed their birthday cake made of carrots, beetroot and bamboo as delighted visitors watched. A zookeeper said that the cake was also surrounded by other edible treats such as apples and sweet potatoes. She spoke of the joy the pandas brought to zoo visitors. Pete and Paul's mother, Meng, gave birth to the pair at the zoo on 31st of August 2019. What a lovely celebration there. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabin of condolences to the custodian of the two holy mosques on the death of Her Highness Princess Jawahir bint Abdul Aziz Al Saud. COVID-19 Supreme Committee stresses on the requirement of getting vaccinated for entry to the Sultanate for all arrivals from world countries and also to enter government units and private sector establishments from tomorrow. And the Minister of Health reports 1 death, 61 new COVID-19 cases and 183 recoveries in the Sultanate. And with that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. The number of COVID-19 cases is decreasing thanks to the commitment of many. Continue to be a champion by following all precautionary measures and take vaccine to beat COVID-19. Good night and stay safe.